Alright, let's start overpainting some extra detail within the city itself. So, what I'm going to do is I'll file open some aerial reference photography that I have, that I've shown you guys earlier. And really, any sort of aerial detail is helpful. You know, if you can find photos of different cities from the air, depending on what kind of architecture style you're aiming for, you're always going to find some textures that are good, because we're just looking not for specific individual textures, but rather just the density of detail, those kinds of things. So, for example, this could be anything, but it's just a nice little bit of extra detail that we can put into our painting. So, you also have to think of how much will your audience zoom into the painting. If they will only ever see it at this distance, you can get away with a lot more. But if you're making it much more high resolution, then you have to start thinking about matching the quality perfectly and the scale and things like that. But for our painting, we can get away with quite a bit. So let's just have a quick look through all of these. So this is what I have. Okay. And let's grab some of this texture. I quite like it because there's a nice bit of variety. And I think a nice sort of composition of different little details. So let's just Control C to copy, and let's go back into our project, and let's just paste it here. Okay, so now we have this. Let's make a new group, and we're going to call this Photo Ref Elements. And let's make another group in here, and we'll call this Shanties. No, Shanties, would that be the right word? Yeah, okay. Let's just use that, because this is what they are. And let's just grab this group. And currently we can see that a problem we're having is that the ambient occlusion is going over the top of our photographic elements. So this is what I said earlier. Because these will not be conforming to the bounds of the geometry, like the triplanars were, we want to put these all above. And let's just make this group green. Okay, so now these are nice and undisturbed by the ambient occlusion. Let's shrink it. And let's zoom in a little bit. Maybe a little bit less. Just 100% I guess is logical. And let's shrink it to a good size and change the perspective a little bit to match more. Okay. So now let's look where we can put this. First let's make a copy in case we distort it more. And let's just drag this over here. We can shrink it even a little bit more. And let's just go into our blending options again. And once again, let's key out the shadows, so we're only getting the bright rooftop bits. We can make this a little bit smooth. Okay. And we can scale it down even more. And we can start putting this detail around our painting. So you can copy it a few times and get away with it. For example, we'll copy it here and shuffle the details around just a little bit to make it look different, but we'll try to use a few of these. So you gotta be, I guess, a little bit careful that you're matching the scale and everything, but you can get away with quite a lot in terms of the perspective being slightly off or things like that. So let's grab these tiny details. And let's just add them here. So my aim is to create kind of areas where there is more detail. You know, I can pretend that this is maybe some market or something with little stalls and things like that. Let's copy it again. Maybe bring some extra detail here. Just stuff we can put on top of our piers, maybe. because currently they're looking a little bit basic. Like so. Let's take this, maybe flip it horizontally, so it's slightly different again. And you know, we can pretend that maybe this is just rubbish laying around or little things. It doesn't have to be perfect, really. As long as it's not too eye-catching. This is just extra detail, you know. It's not going to really affect the painting that much by itself in terms of the individual details, but then when you have a lot of these added on, you can get some really cool benefits from it. Let's copy this again, and maybe let's just put it here. And I'm continuously trying to find little nice areas where it looks like it would fit. You know, where would life kind of congregate in this city? You know, maybe there's like a little area here and this is close to the water and there's like something going on here. Maybe, you know, we can even take a little bit more of this and put it there. Let's copy it once more. You know, as long as you spread the identical copies out throughout the image, you can get away with reusing the same elements quite a few times. So let's just do this. And let's maybe go into our images again and grab a new little selection. What looks good? Yeah, maybe some of this stuff could be cool. Just grab a chunk that looks interesting. Alright. Boom. Copy. Paste. Again, let's shrink down to a more acceptable level first, and then go to blending options, and let's just key out the shadows again, like so. And let's delete the previous one. Let's just keep a copy of this unchanged, and let's just add this here. This is a nice little fit. Maybe we can back in. Yeah, maybe we can just delete a little bit of it here. So just trying to blend it together with all of the scattered geometry to sort of blur the line between what is CG and what is overpainting. So it looks more like a realistic painting, because with CG oftentimes you get a lot of repetition, and if you're experienced with it, you can see where things are copied and are identical, whereas if you start overpainting, it's a lot more difficult to tell from an outside view. So we'll do this. Maybe bring this down. Right now that's a little interesting area. Let's copy this again. And currently I'm just worrying about filling the detail, and we'll fix the lighting in a minute, because currently the overpainted elements do not conform to the lighting of the entire painting. Maybe put that there. Let's flip this. And remember to scale it down as you go further into the distance. That's kind of cool. Let's bring it over here a little bit as well. Let's flip this. There's a nice fit in here. Yes, something like this, and let's just erase it here a little bit. Like so. Okay. And let's not make it too dense. We don't want to hide all of our 3D. We can spread it out a little bit. And try to think of what this actually would be in the scene. So I'm thinking these are all little rooftops, just like in reality, but some of them could maybe be hanging cloths. For example, if I copy these and let's see if I do this, right? Now they could be someone's washing, their dirty clothes or clean clothes, rather hanging from a wall somewhere. Just little kind of details like that. Let's go find another little area we can copy. Maybe let's grab this chunk. And I'm just trying to do everything in the quickest way, which is why we're keying out the shadows. If we were even more scrupulous and tried to put in more time into the piece, we can try to paste these on and keep the shadows and paint them in nicely. And that would for sure be a good thing to do if you had more time. Let's shrink this a little bit again. Maybe a little bit like this. And let's just do this again. Okay, so currently a lot of dirty areas here, so let me just remove those. Okay, next let's delete a bunch of this stuff. Just cleaning this up a little bit. Okay. And let's not paste this directly over. Let's just grab little chunks of it, like so, and drag them in one by one. And this way, we can make a nice composition. Let's just take a little bit more of this. And I'll put it here. Like so. We can take this. And even maybe put it here. We can take all of these and put them in this gap maybe. There's nothing going on there. Okay. So now we've got this much extra detail. And it's quite nice, but it's not matching the lighting. So for that first, let's create one set of curves. And let's just bring the highlights down so they're not so white. We don't want the highlights to be much wider than the whitest parts of the render. Okay, and then in addition to that, let's add another curves, and we'll make this really shadowy. Okay, and let's just disable that for a second. Let's take our distant light and our environment base, and if we click them while having Control held down, we can select them at the same time, and let's just click Control plus J to copy them both, and let's just click Control E to merge them. So now if I put them on top, we just see that it's all of our lighting, both of the lighting layers in one layer. And so let's select the mask of the curves underneath it, and with this still being viewed, let's go to Image, Apply Image. Okay. And now let's go into our mask. So currently this is the alpha, and what we want to do is we want to increase the contrast and invert it. So let's just invert. And basically what I want to do is make these highlights, which are now black because it's inverted, more black, so none of this shadow curves is going to get applied to the highlights. Let's see, like this. And if we alt click again. Okay, now we see that this has been proportionally darkened based on where the highlights and the shadows are in this alpha mask. And let's just tweak this even a little bit more, like so. Okay. Let's just go in here and have a look. If I zoom in a bit. Okay, so see where it's more shadow, they got darkened more, and in other places less. And actually, let's have a look. Maybe we can blur this mask a little bit. Okay, so now the little details from underneath shouldn't be showing through. And maybe let's just have another look at curves. Okay. Okay, so now the shadows actually conform to the rest of the image. So previously, they were in sunlight, it seemed, no matter where they were, and now they work quite a bit more nicely. So, doing this for the entire scene would take quite a lot of time, maybe a few hours. So let me just instead focus on one section of the image and really work it up with these details as much as I can and describe my process for that. And then for the rest of it, you can just do the exact same thing because it's a lot of the same technique copied over and over and over. So instead of wasting your time showing the same thing multiple times, let me just zoom in here on this area and let's work it up a little bit more just to show the kind of detail that I would be expecting if I was working on it. Okay, let's grab some of this. Just like so. Copy. Paste it. Just arrange it slightly. Blend diff. And you see, one of the important things here that I can do is get rid of some of these very sharp edges. Let me zoom in just to show. So edges like this, or like this, which are incredibly sharp, right? You would rarely get an edge this straight in real life. Maybe with modern architecture, but definitely not with architecture that is old, like all of this is. So if I bring my overpainting in, and let me actually filter sharpen slightly. And let's reduce the sharpening to 60%. You can see that I'm able to actually override some of these very straight edges. So let's just copy that. And here let's again paint this in. Like so. Just let's check. Okay. This is quite cool. Sometimes you get happy little accidents where everything matches up perfectly. Let's just delete the mask and let's grab this bit. And let's make this look like a tarp on one of these rooftops instead. Something like that. Let's take the copy again. And here. Let's paint this in here. So you see, now I'm making these little areas a lot more random and getting rid of a lot of that computer generated look that we had previously. Right, this could be cloths hanging off this wall. If I go back and forth, we see that this is now much more interesting and random. Okay.